right. Hello. I am
Hey,
here. Hi. With
hi.
my one-on-one client, Melody. She's about halfway, 8 weeks
Yeah,
through
I'm on week
the
9 now, right?
week 9.
Yeah,
Yeah.
starting week 9.
Yeah. On into my one-on-one program. And I just wanted to have her on here to talk about just everything that she's experienced so far and everything she came from before. So we're just gonna have a little chat and do like an interview style talk. So that hi Melody, thanks for being
Hey.
with us. Hello. So why don't you start about I have my questions over here, so I'm looking over
Okay.
here. So what was going on in your life before we started working together? So about 2 months ago ish.
Yeah.
What were you dealing with that brought you to looking for help?
Yeah. So I've actually been dealing with this issue so it's a knee issue, and I keep having like a recurring inflammation in my knee. That was getting so bad that I would be out for weeks. Like if I'd go for a walk, I would be out for like 3 weeks while it was all flamed up and hurting, and I couldn't do anything else. So that's been happening off and on actually for a really long time. Going back to kind of a few months ago before we started, I have over in the past year been attempting a regular exercise program. I'm 51, like I'm trying to keep myself healthy and age well. And I think historically I've been like a weekend warrior kind of exerciser. So I never did enough to notice any kind of knee issue because I would go out hiking 20 miles, of course my knee would hurt. And I just attributed it to the fact that I had just gone out for a hike without doing anything else. But about a year ago, I started like getting myself involved in a regular exercise program. And that created enormous inflammation in my knee pretty much right off the bat. And so if I tried to work out more than once a week, my knee would get inflamed. I couldn't walk, really hurt to move, those types of things. So that's kind of the starting point. I shifted from a regular trainer. I actually signed up with like a specialty functional trainer who works with people who have injuries. So I was trying to like figure out what was causing it. That helped a little bit, but not enough to get rid of it. Like we just kept modifying exercises, modifying and modifying. And she was able to notice that it was more in my hip than in my knee. So I got a little bit of insight from that. So then I realized like, okay, well, let me try physical therapy. So then I went to physical therapy. That actually made my knee worse. So they were also in the hips, but for whatever reason, like that made things worse.
Yeah, because we talked at the very beginning that they weren't wrong in saying
No,
that there was something going on in your hip that we needed to work on,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It was just every time you worked on the hip, the knee was screaming at you and
yeah,
inflamed
yeah.
as a compensation,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, the compensation is really the key. And that was the thing, right? Like not understanding that that was a compensation, which is like, I'm like, I have a problem with my knee. That's
Mhm.
logical. But now I clearly understand it was a compensation and
Yeah,
it's actually all way up here, like a totally different jam.
yeah.
But yeah, so I tried the physical therapy. That didn't really help. Couldn't get the inflammation down. I tried acupuncture. I tried meditation. I mean, I've done so many things. So I got really frustrated. Like I was at a point where I felt really hopeless. I was really angry. I'm 51. Like I'm finally getting in shape and like doing all these things for my health and want to exercise for the first time regularly instead of just in the summer. And then I couldn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm part of a wellness group, and there are like monthly challenges, there's exercise programs, there's all these things, nutrition, all these things involved in it, and I just couldn't participate. So it's just like, it was just so disheartening to like go through. Like before I called you, what created my impetus to finally figure out some other solution was looking through all of my posts, and it's like, oh, well, I tried to do this, but I couldn't. Or, oh, I got to sit this one out because of my knee. Or, oh, I'm doing this other challenge instead. Or I'm working with the therapist instead because of my knee. And like for 7 months in this program, I was not once able to like actually just follow the plan that was in there. So yeah, lots of FOMO, Um,
People don't know that's fear of missing out, because sometimes I
oh,
always
right.
forget. I'm
Like,
like,
yeah,
what?
and I joke about that, but on a deeper level, like fear, like I'm never going to be able to actually exercise.
Yeah.
And like, what do I do? Like, I'm losing muscle, right? I'm going through menopause. Like, there's things happening where I need that type of a workout. Like, just walking or whatever is not enough. So,
Well, and
um,
even walking was,
I
if your
couldn't even
knee
walk
got
eventually.
inflamed,
Yeah.
you couldn't walk, right?
Got to a point
So
where I couldn't even walk. Yeah.
yeah, it's really hard when you're telling yourself that's like, we know we need movement, right? We know this. We know we need to move. But if movement hurts,
Yeah.
how frustrating is that? You're like, I know this
Yeah.
is good for me, but it hurts. So obviously it's not good for me. So you're in this
Right.
like paradoxical
Yeah.
moment and predicament,
Yeah.
right?
And the worst thing is when I would get over a bout of inflammation, then the hope would come up again. Because now that I've gone through like 3 weeks of inflammation, then suddenly we're like, oh, it's feeling better. I'm going to go for a walk. And then, I'd go for a walk one day. That's like, okay, this is awesome. I'm going to try to walk 2 days a week. As soon as I did that, or 3 days a week or whatever, right back to square one.
Right.
So just spinning in circles. And I'm a pretty determined person. So like, even though I get hopeless, I still keep searching. And it was actually a person in the wellness program that I'm in that said, have you ever heard of the Gosku? I was like, what the hell? I'm sorry, what the heck is a Gosku, right? Like, like, what is that? I don't know what that is. So me being me, I immediately like started Googling it and researching it and like doing my deep dive into it and watching YouTube videos and trying to understand what it was. And I actually saw I found you through YouTube because you had done like an hour-long interview. I was trying to find videos where it was more than just, a 2-minute demo or whatever. And you had done this in-depth interview. And I was like, that makes sense to me. Like, that can't be any worse than anything else I've tried.
Like, might as well.
It doesn't look that scary. Like, these exercises look easier than the physical therapy I was being put through. So, so that's where I ended up like gathering my courage and giving you a call.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. And the rest is history.
The rest is history because now I'm walking all over the place.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what the process has been like for you once you decided to commit and we started working with each other.
Yeah. So the first thing that comes to my mind is just the realization of like where the root cause was. So like about 2 years ago, I had gotten frozen shoulder. And you were the one who like made me realize like, yeah, it might be the hips, but we have to go up even higher because it's all connected. And we started doing nothing but shoulder work. And I, I was like, how is the shoulder work going to help my knee, right?
Yeah.
But immediately,
I want to pause there for a second because that is something people say all the time, right? How the heck is this shoulder work going to help my knee?
Yeah.
But like you said, it's all connected. And what we found was, yes, there was an issue with the hip above the knee, but every time you did something with the hip, it inflamed the knee. So obviously we cannot go after that because that's not helping you.
Right,
Like,
right.
okay, so what we did, right, was look at the whole posture as a unit. So we remember and we still do this, but we put your posture photos up and be like, yes, there's things happening in the lower body, but also look at your shoulder position.
Which was like,
yeah, it was off. It was like
crazy puppet. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so I was like, okay. And then there was another functional test too that we did at the very beginning that showed when we put your hands behind your head, right? Put your hands behind your head, pulled your elbows back, your knee felt better and your foot turned in. So your foot was turning out most all the time. Then your foot turned straight and your knee felt better. And you're like, what the
like
heck?
instantly. Yeah, I keep saying that it's like witchcraft. I mean, it's like, it's just like, but there's a logic to it. When you understand it, there's a logic to it. But yeah. So we started with the shoulder work. And then, so even though and my knee was really inflamed when we started. So, I mean, you were great. You just had me like throw my legs over the sofa and let the knee rest while we did other stuff until we could get that inflammation down. And it went down fast.
It did. As soon as we shifted your shoulders, like I remember the very first session we shifted your shoulders and you were like, my knee feels better. And it's
Yeah.
not like perfect, right? It was one
Oh,
session, but it was like, you were like, I could feel a change
yeah.
in my knee after doing like 3 shoulder exercises.
Yeah.
Actually, after doing like 1 shoulder exercise,
Yeah.
you were like,
Yeah.
that feels better.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really amazing. So that was an immediate win. And I have also noted like what also happened at the beginning, I'm like hyper focused on the knee, right? Because that's where the pain is. So I'm thinking about the
Mhm.
knee. I'm always focused on the knee, and I
Right,
wasn't paying attention to anything else.
right.
And then like suddenly, like, do you remember when we did, I think it was in the first week, maybe the second week, where suddenly I just got on the floor and I like sat on my feet.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I've never been able to sit on my feet without them cramping like immediately, like, like sitting this way. I've always had my little toes turned up like this. Like if I'm doing yoga, you're supposed to be like this, my toes were like this. I just sat on them
And you were like, what?
and like,
Yeah. I know that I think that was a couple weeks in, but yeah,
yeah,
I said to you when that happened, I wish I had screenshotted your face because you just like looked at me and you were like,
yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
oh my God, I wish I had screenshotted that.
yeah. So there's been all these other small things that have happened besides like working on the knee, like all these other little weird things, like unlocking the frozen shoulder and having range of motion, which is making me sit differently. I noticed that I sit differently. I work at a desk all day. Like even I'm just like hyper aware of all these things. Lots of tension that I had in my neck, which I just thought was like work
Normal.
tension.
Yeah.
Like it's because I was like in this, compensated weird wonky shoulder position. So yeah, so things like tension headaches. I mean, stuff not related to my goal, which was
Right.
to fix my knee, has been happening as well.
Your story reminds me a lot of my story because my story was actually coming in from my left knee as well. And when I very first started this process as a client, and what you're describing with, I didn't even realize that there was so much tension and pain. Actually,
Yeah,
like when I look
yeah,
back at it, it was pain. In the time, I didn't realize in my shoulders, between my shoulder blades and my
yeah,
neck, because
yeah,
so many people have that nowadays. It's
yeah.
thought of to be normal,
Normal.
but it's not normal. It's common, but it's not normal. And one of the first things that I felt change for myself and what you felt was that tension, especially up here, what
Yeah,
everybody thinks of as normal, started to
yeah,
dissipate and felt
yeah,
a whole lot better.
yeah, yeah.
Even
And my
though you were
shoulder,
still sitting at your
no,
desk,
yeah,
right?
so much of it. And like just other little things, like my shoulder blades have always made this like crunching sound. If I
Mhm.
do that, they would crunch. And like I even went to a doctor about it. They're like, oh, that's just the way you're built. It doesn't hurt. And I'm like, no, but it like makes a weird crunching sound every time. He's like, oh, don't worry about it.
Like crunching
That
should be there.
that's gone too. Like
Yeah.
because those blades have, everything started moving. I feel like I've had a lube job.
Yeah. And
It's like the
for
Tin
sure.
Man getting an oil can. Like that's what my body feels like. Aside from the fact that my knee doesn't hurt anymore and that I'm out like walking every day and doing all these different things now, even only at the halfway point. But all
Yeah.
those other little things have happened too.
Yeah. I kind of relate it sometimes about basically you feel like you're getting a massage, but on your own.
Yeah,
Right. Maybe
yeah,
not as much with like, because massage can be very relaxing. Maybe it's not as relaxing, but you're getting the
yeah,
same sort of, muscle releases as
yeah,
a lot of people go to chiropractors and massage therapists to feel. Yet when they then, the next day, they feel right back
yeah,
as tight as they
yeah,
were, versus the
yeah,
next day, you have these tools to get yourself in that same
yeah.
place and feel just as good. Right.
Yeah, I forgot that I had also seen a chiropractor. You just reminded me of that. That didn't work either. But yeah, I'm to the point now where like if I miss a day for whatever reason, like when I was dealing with I have a intestinal infection, like when I was dealing with that and I was having back pain and I skipped a day, like there's just like if I miss a day for whatever reason, I feel it. And
Mhm.
like now I crave the movement. Like I just, because it is like getting a massage. I mean, and even some of the, a lot of the work is actually pretty relaxing. It's very relaxing and meditative. And some of them are like, more of a deeper stretch. But that is what I crave now because it's just like it's just like getting a deep tissue it's just, yeah, it's wonderful. It just resets me every day. I just reset myself. It's like, okay, that took 15 minutes. Yesterday, my knee was hurting a little bit, did my work exercises this morning, and then I decided to do them one more time before I went for a walk. And it's like, okay, fine. Now I'm all ready to go again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
not that after we're done working with each other, it's not that you never do these again, right? It's like
Oh, no, I'm going to do them every day.
yeah, you're creating
Yeah,
lifestyle habits, which I
yeah,
think people,
yeah,
it's hard to know what to do for one, for everybody, especially when you're subjectively in your own body. It's really hard to not focus on the area of pain, like you talked
yeah,
about, or your
yeah,
mind just goes to
yeah.
the knee, and maybe it'll go down to the ankle, maybe it'll go up to the hip a little bit, but it's all
Mhm.
like on that side. And this is, whoop, sorry, I just knocked my mouse off the desk. I got so excited. It's hard to then focus on everywhere else in your body and make those connections between your right frozen shoulder and your left knee,
Yeah.
right? But I forget where I was going with that. What was I talking about?
You were talking about self-efficacy.
Oh yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah,
the goal is to create these lifestyle habits that you continue on. Like you say, you reset your body every day, you get it in
yeah,
a better postural position, and
yeah,
then you can do whatever movement that you want. And it's
yeah,
more nutritious for your body because your body is in a straighter alignment and your muscles and your joints are functioning better.
yeah, yeah,
Right? Yeah.
yeah. And what's really interesting too is like yesterday. So I did a 6 mile walk yesterday, and yeah, I could feel it a little bit in my knee. But I've been, because we're in a challenge in my wellness group where it's getting outside every day. I've been walking every single day in a row, which I haven't done for more than 4 years. I mean, I can go for a walk every day now. But I did six miles yesterday with hills. So yeah, I was a little sore in my knees. So it's like, oh, okay, well, that's feedback that, I'm doing a lot. So slow down a little bit, but whatever. But mostly what I'm noticing is instead of like having the big knee pain soreness, like now I have muscle soreness, like a
Mm,
normal person, right?
yeah.
Like I'm sore because I use my muscles and I'm feeling that soreness move. So like now I'm sore in my right hip, which I'm like freaking awesome. That means that hip is moving now finally when
Yeah.
it's all like crunched up and locked up. So now it's like there's actually some range of motion in there. So my knee isn't compensating. So it's just super fun each week to like, it sounds really weird, but it's like super fun to notice where I'm sore, like in other places,
Yeah.
because it's indicative of the fact that like stuff is moving and stuff is working. Like I'm sore in my ass, I'm sorry, in my butt for the first time. Obviously, I have a swearing issue.
I love it.
I was sore in my butt for the first time after doing some hill climbing, and like I haven't been able to activate my glutes probably ever. Like,
Yeah, you had said
I
like
mean, like I'm a cyclist and a hiker, and
yeah.
those have never worked. And my husband could never understand like why I wasn't sore and why I would be sore in all these weird places, like my knees and my calves, instead of in my butt where I should be sore.
Yeah.
So it's thrilling to like, if you pay attention, like it motivates me. Like it's not about my knee anymore. It's about everything. It's like I want everything to like align and start to move and function like it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to me that in 8 weeks, I mean, I just can't. You asked me where I started. I'm like, I can't even remember. Like, I don't even remember what that felt like to like have to walk from my bedroom to my living room with a knee brace on, because that's the only way I could move across my own apartment. Like, that's just
Yeah. I remember
crazy to
when
me.
we very first met, you're like, I can't even walk to the end of the block.
Yeah, no, I couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, like every week, so we have a separate Facebook group just for my clients going through either the one-on-one or the group program. And every week you're posting like pictures outside. You're like, I did this hill.
I just
I did
climbed the
this.
stairs. Yeah.
I
I
climbed
climbed
these
the
stairs.
stairs.
I went on this hike. And I'm like, amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I know. I'm like
Um,
a fangirl on there. I'm like
I love,
fangirling
yeah.
Rachel. Like I can't help it. But really, I'm fangirling the program. I mean, I'm fangirling. You're lovely, but like I'm also fangirling the program, right? Because like I think it's important to show. I do that for myself too, to see, because there are weeks. It's not linear. I think
Exactly.
that's important to talk about too. Like I had a couple of like a week or maybe 2 weeks out of the last 8 that were not great, right? Like your body's not a machine. So you
Exactly.
have ups and downs as well. And so, you don't
I
give
think
up. You
that's
just do a
really,
different exercise.
yeah, I think that's really important to recognize. And that's why I personally don't do single sessions anymore. I only do
Yeah,
program because, it's a process, and
yeah,
we're in the goal of getting results, and some weeks are better than others
yeah,
as you're relearning movement patterns that potentially have been there for 30 years,
yeah,
40 years,
yeah,
20 years, depending on who you are.
right.
Like, things shift, you end up feeling different feelings, areas
Yeah,
of your body like might be activating that you've never even activated, so some weeks can be very different than others and can be harder than
yeah,
others.
yeah,
But ultimately, we want
yeah.
the
The
diagonal to go
yes,
up,
yeah,
even with the dips. And I think what's cool about learning these exercises and learning how to feel how the exercises are working is you then have more control
yeah,
over if you do feel
yeah,
like a dip in the road. I like to call it a dip in the road, not like a flare up. But if you're feeling more inflammation, you can then tune into, okay, but what are my shoulders doing? Are they feeling more imbalanced today? Are my hips feeling more imbalanced? Or are they, activating
yeah,
well? So
yeah,
because when you focus on that, that gives you more control instead of just focusing on like my knee hurts, my knee hurts, my knee hurts,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I actually, and that's the thing too. Like I just adapted some of the exercises. Like there was a day when my knee was sore. I instead of doing the wall one that we do, nobody's going to know what that means. But instead of like having my feet up on the wall, I rested them on the sofa.
right.
Still did my exercises. I just changed my leg position for one day. It wasn't a
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah.
Take some pressure off. Fine, the next day back to the exercises again.
And
And so
you're
even
learning so much to be able to troubleshoot that on your own
yeah,
instead of like running to
calling
me and
you
being like, Rachel, what do I do?
that the first couple of weeks, right?
That's
But
okay. And people can do that. That's what I'm here for.
yeah,
But, the whole point is you're learning more about your specific movement patterns and your compensations
yeah,
and your alignment so you can make those decisions in the moment to be like,
yeah,
okay, let me just modify this a little bit. Oh,
yeah,
look, it
yeah,
helped.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
go on my merry way, right? It
yeah,
doesn't have to
yeah.
be like, a
It's no
total break.
drama. No, it's
Yeah.
really cool that I kind of feel like I have an arsenal of exercises now, and I'm starting to understand my body enough that I can figure out which ones to do or not do. And you get immediate feedback. So it's like, oh, not that one, because now I'm walking weirder than, that I do the little test all on my own and see like, oh, okay, yeah, I did something that made it like funky, but then you just self-correct it. And 5 minutes later, it's like recorrected. And you and I did that when we were like picking and choosing exercises, right? Let's try this one. No, that one made you walk weirder. Let's try this one. Oh, that one works well. So there's a playfulness to it
Love
also
it.
that I like, because like everything else I did, the chiropractor, the therapy, the gym, so like everything was so serious.
Mm.
And I was so like tense when I was trying to go through those programs because I had so much fear and frustration that, like with this, I'm like having fun. Like it doesn't feel like exercise. I mean, it's like, and it's 15 minutes. I think the longest program I've had with you was like maybe 20.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it like takes no time at all. And there's no pressure because I'm starting to trust myself. Like I'm starting to trust my body.
Yeah, which is
Um,
a huge
yeah.
thing, which is so many of us have lost that. And
I had no connection.
yeah,
Like,
we've lost the
yeah,
connection, we have lost the trust. There's a lot of fear around movement
yeah.
and just not being able to, do anything because the fear of as soon as you do something, it's going to take you out of
Break you.
condition.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I went, I'm still not there yet. I'm still like, I still have some fear. I'll be honest. Like, I'm still afraid to get on my bike.
Mm.
Like I did a couple short runs, but I'm still afraid to like really like get in there and like hill climb with my bike. I haven't done squats or dips or things like that. Like I'm still scared to try some of those other things. That's okay. I'm aware of it and like easing into it.
Exactly.
Um, I forgot what I was going to talk about. Shoot, I had such a great thing that I was going to say about fear. um,
You also
I
have more
lost
control
it.
over it and knowledge
Yeah.
now.
Oh, I
So,
know what I was going to
okay.
say. So anyway, so it's the cycling, right? So I have all this fear around it. So, but I did go out and do a ride, and it was the first time, I don't even know how long, that I was able to go out with my husband instead of us riding separately. Like I could actually keep up with him and we could ride together. And I just stopped. Like we stopped at a viewpoint, and I stopped and I just burst into tears. And I was like, I'm not broken. And
Oh,
I realized, like, that was such a powerful moment, because I realized that I had had a story that I was broken. And that's what I wanted to say about trusting the body, right? I had lost that trust because no matter what I did, nothing worked. So I was like, I just broke it, like, and, that's the thing I want people to hear. If I'm doing a quote unquote testimonials, you're not broken. Like this works. It gets to the core issue, which is just alignment. It's like, it's not a lot of drama. That's the thing for me that's been amazing about this, is like,
yeah.
there's no drama. It's just, I'm just opening things. I'm just moving things. I'm unsticking what's stuck. That's
Mhm.
it.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really simple
So,
concept, which sometimes people
so
are like, wait,
simple.
that's it?
Yeah.
They want, since we're so used to everything being so complicated, it's
Yep.
hard to just think, wait, that's it? It's
Yeah.
because, my shoulder is rounded forward and my foot's turning out. Like,
Yeah. Right.
seriously? They're like, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We just have to sometimes, getting it to be straighter can be a little bit more complicated,
Right.
but why it's there is pretty simple.
Yeah.
And I love
Yeah.
that you said that, because I think a lot of people who I talk to, um, who come to me feel broken.
Yeah. Yeah. And you give up. I mean, I had given up. I'd given up 20 times, but I rally. Thank goodness I have that kind of determination where even though I give up,
You're still looking for something, but you
something
haven't fully
something
given
keeps
up.
me seeking. And thank God, because this was it. This was finally the thing when nothing else worked. And it's the simplicity that works. That's why it works. Yeah.
And I want to just kind of bring up too, you told me a couple weeks in that I really think made a big difference for you is one, your mindset about this. And
Mm,
so you told me your mantra going into this and throughout this process was, what
was
if it does work? Which
Yeah.
actually gives me chills, because I feel like, as I
Yeah, me
talk
too.
about,
I just got another one.
yeah, which I feel like when people feel broken and they're very fearful because they've tried so many things, which is completely understandable, which I empathize with so much
Yeah.
because I've been there, you've been there,
Yeah.
right? Their immediate thought is, well, what if it doesn't work? What if
Yep.
I'm right back to where I was? What if
Yep.
I'm worse off, right?
Yeah.
Which is a very easy mindset to go to, and I don't blame them at all. But you
Yeah.
came in and you were like, what if it does work? What if
Yeah.
it does get better? And you consistently, even in the hard times, even in the not as good weeks, you found the little wins along
Yeah,
the
I would
way.
look for them. Like if I was
Look for
struggling
them
with the big one, heck yeah, I was looking for the little one. Like whether that was being able to sit on my feet,
consciously.
whatever. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's a mantra that I taught to my clients when I was a life coach. It's like, why am I not applying to
Yeah.
my own situation, right? So yeah, that's when I said, like, I have to change my mindset if I'm going to do this. And I thought about that as far as ownership, like maybe those other programs might have helped me more if I hadn't gone into them with a defeatist attitude to begin with,
Or expecting somebody else to fix you.
expecting, and that's the responsibility piece, right? I leaned heavily on my trainer to like teach me the quote unquote proper way to, do a squat or whatever. I can trust my body to squat. It knows how to squat.
Right.
It just can't squat properly because it doesn't have the alignment to be able to do it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
as soon as the alignment's there, it just goes down into a squat and I don't have to think about it. I don't need to be trained on how to do that, right? So yeah, so there's a piece of ownership in that. So I think that's where I also kind of committed at the same time to this, what if it all works out? Because the body and the mind are, you know,
One. They are one.
I'm going to get woo woo now, but you can't separate those
No,
things.
you
Like
can't.
the body does what the mind tells it.
Mhm.
So if I keep telling my knee that it's never going to get better, it's going to have a really hard time getting better. And that sounds really out there, but I really believe through experience that that's true.
Yeah. One of my
So
favorite quotes is the body achieves what the mind believes.
yeah,
Right. And
yeah,
if you consistently go like, yeah, I mean, my shoulders are getting better, but my knee still hurts, and you're
yeah,
not focusing on the little wins,
yeah,
your mind is just going to be consistently being like, well, it's not working. It's not
yeah,
working. It's not
yeah,
working. You
right.
know, and you're going to miss the little wins along the way, or you can recognize,
Yeah,
okay, yeah, my hip mobility is better, my shoulder feels better, but this one thing isn't
yeah,
changed. And I'm like, okay, yeah,
exactly.
but like, look at all this stuff,
Yeah,
right? And that's going to keep you stuck, not you, just
yeah,
anybody,
yeah,
but like it's going to keep a person stuck
yeah.
versus I really think the results that you've seen, one, are a combination of obviously the alignment, because that's
Well,
what I
that's like
do.
90% of it.
Yeah, but I mean, I actually say that part of this process is 90% the mindset going into it.
Yeah,
10% the exercises. I mean,
yeah,
but taking a step back, looking at the wins, saying what if it does work, and being confident in those wins
hmm,
as you go, especially if the road gets tough, because inevitably the
it does.
road will get tough
Of course.
for
Yeah,
everybody. We've
yeah,
all, I've had it. Anybody you've ever talked to trying to change anything about their health, body, wellness, anything, there's tough days. There
hmm,
always is, right?
right.
But if we keep that mindset piece of it and continue to look at the little wins, actually,
Yeah,
since you started posting a lot of the little wins, I really encourage everybody to post on our Facebook group
it helps me.
all the little wins, because if not, if we're used to focusing on the negative, then we're only going to see the negative.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think part of it for me too is, and this program actually, I mean, I knew it, but this program has helped me live it, which is crazy after 8 little weeks. But I was always focused on the end goal, right?
Mhm.
Fix the knee.
Right.
And like when you're focused way out there, you're not here.
Right. You're
So
not in your body.
I wasn't in my body.
Mhm.
And so this program, because the feedback that I would get was so instant. I mean, I was having little wins 20 minutes into my very
Yeah.
first session. I was suddenly like, I couldn't move my shoulders this way at all. And then I did 30 of those. And by the end, I was touching the floor, right? Like instantly, there was a win.
Exactly.
And like, I'm not kidding, that stupid little shoulder exercise where putting my arms like this and then being able to, I can't do it because
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
I don't want to try to demo it, but I couldn't put them all the way back and
Yeah.
touch the floor. And now I do that exercise every day. And it's just like do, floor, 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 right? It's habitual and it just happens. But that was like joy.
That was
Like
a win.
it was a win. So that's what I love about these exercises, because I'm motivated in the moment,
Mhm.
because the feedback is right there.
Yeah.
A day later, there's a win, right? An exercise later, there's a win. We're on
Exactly.
the floor, you get up, you have me walk, suddenly I'm walking different. That's a win. Like it's like, so the feedback is so instantaneous that it made me hopeful.
Yeah, especially
And
when you're
that's
in
what keeps me
tune with
going.
that feedback, right?
Yeah,
You see the wins. Was your knee perfect by that point? No,
still
but
not
we
perfect.
were going for the
Yeah,
process wins. And when you tune into the actual like feeling of it in the moment,
yeah,
you can feel a difference very quickly.
very
You know,
soon. It's like,
bit like almost instantaneous if you really tune in and accept that as a win, being like, okay, I feel lighter on my
yeah,
feet. Does that
yeah,
relate to my neck pain? Whatever. Well, yes, it does. And we have to celebrate feeling lighter and the balance in your feet is better.
yeah,
Like that does relate to the neck pain. Is the neck pain gone yet?
yeah,
No, but I'm just using neck pain as an
yeah,
example.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
It's awesome.
like it's a win along the way, and it's pretty instantaneous when you
Yeah,
tune into it.
yeah. And this is the only program I found that is like that,
Mhm.
where I'm not waiting for a result. I sound like an info commercial. I'm not trying to sound like an info commercial, I swear, but it's true. Like, right? Like I was waiting for a result because there wasn't an instant healing. There wasn't instant alignment. There wasn't instant change. Like I was with the private trainer. She was amazing, but I was with her for 6 months.
Yeah.
My progress was like this much, like probably the same amount of progress I got in 2 weeks with this program. And like, I'm just so I'm so grateful for it. I know I just sound like an info commercial all the time because I keep talking about you and talking about this program to everybody I know, because it's life changing. Like I've got my life back. I mean, I've got my body back, but mostly I've got my hope back. It's just, it's huge. So now I'm like, I might try a squat. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, so what? It just means I'm not ready yet. So keep working the program, right? I've still got more time. There's, and every week I'm able to do more. So it doesn't matter that I can't do all of it yet. I don't expect to like jump on my bike and do a 60-mile road climb with hills at the end of this program, but I can start training without having the knee pain get me in my way where I'm benched again for another month and I have to wait for the knee to heal.
Right.
So I can actually start training and actually start strengthening and start doing things without being in that circle of defeat where I would start and end up back here, start and end up back here. Wait 3 weeks for the knee to calm down, try again, back to the beginning.
Yeah.
That was the worst type of hell. I mean, that's Einstein's definition of insanity, right? You just keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So
that's such a good point, you know, because I do talk to people and they're like, well, how is this different? And until you really feel it, it's kind of hard to know how it is different, right? But then they're like, okay, well, I'm gonna keep just doing what I'm doing. And I'm like, well, but it hasn't gotten you results so far. So you know,
I'm a person, like, I'm not afraid to try weird things, right? Like, I mean, I've done crystal healing, like you name it, I've tried everything. I'm like, I will do whatever it takes to try to figure it out. But, you know, this isn't weird. Like, that's the other thing too. My husband, you know, he's Mr. Fitness. He's done martial arts and yoga and all kinds of stuff his whole life. And like, he's watching me do these exercises. He's like, oh, that's not weird. Like, that's very similar to this and this and that. Oh, that's why we do a kata, because it balances the body and puts your center, you know, like, they're not weird. Like, they're basically just stretching exercises. so anybody who's like worried that it's out there, I must admit I was a little disappointed that it wasn't weirder.
Not standing on your head, like calling the sun god or something. I don't know.
Or anything, you know, just laying on my back, like moving my arms around.
No, but it's just the strategy behind it that is what makes it different, and the specificity of, okay, this one joint is not moving properly. How do we get that to move? And then it makes other
it's a cascade effect.
That's basically what it is. It's called the kinetic chain. One thing affects another. Yeah. I mean, that's what it is. Your foot turning out affects all the way into your neck. Like, it's weird, but it does.
Yeah, and vice versa, I'm assuming.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember when we did the posture test at the beginning, when you had me take pictures and I just had to bend over and try to touch my toes. And like my whole life, I've never, like, I could hardly bend over at all. I was like, my hands were just a little bit below my knee, like not even close to my feet. And I always assumed that was like a hamstring issue, right? Like, oh, I got tight hamstrings, whatever. So I did all this work on my hamstrings. Well, nothing ever changed. I even paid for a program to like try to stretch out my hamstrings. Nothing worked. And then like we did the shoulder exercises, those unlocked. That made my hips free to like unlock. And like a week later, 2 weeks later, I did that same picture again, not for you. I didn't even tell you that. I just did it for me. I took all those pictures again just for myself. Suddenly I just flopped over and touched my toes. Like, it had nothing to do with my hamstrings. It was because my shoulders were locked. So it's like unlocking all these little, you know, it's what I feel like we've gone in and we've like unlocked the shoulders, and now we're unlocking the hips, and then that unlocks the knee, and then it unlocks the ankle. And it's crazy. It's so simple and so crazy, but it's just magical because you're trusting the body. Like, you're just, the body knows what to do if you just give a little
helping hand.
Yeah.
And sometimes get out of its way too. Both of it. Help it out and also get out of its way at the same time. Yeah. Excellent. All right. Before we go, anything else you want to just add? Say to the
I would just say, if somebody's thinking of doing this and they're worried about it being like dangerous or scary, or like that it's going to make something worse, get over that, like forget it. Like you can't really like you can't make anything worse with this. Like you will feel better so quickly in small ways, even if the main thing you're working on takes longer. Yeah, I mean, I would just say like don't let that fear, because you've been stuck. Like I was stuck. I got to a point where I was afraid of everything. Like I was afraid of everything. Like I just sat on the sofa. I was afraid to do anything. And so don't let that fear, if you've been in that place for a long time, stop you from trying it. Because yeah, it's just like I say, it's witchcraft. Like it's just like magical.
Yeah, and a
Um,
lot of people know out there that
yeah,
they want so much more for themselves, but
yeah,
in a movement rich life, and a life that
yeah,
isn't stuck on the couch, so they can go
yeah,
out with their family and friends and kids and grandkids, and if there's a way to do that, keep working towards
yeah,
it, even
yeah.
even if it isn't even this program, but just don't give up.
No, and know
um
your why. Like I think that's big for me, is like understanding the deeper why. Like why do I want to work out regularly? Like why do I want to adapt that lifestyle, or why do I want to eat well? Whatever it is, right? It's like it's not for a surface reason for me anymore. It's like I want to live as long as I can, as healthy as I can, and do things with my husband. And because that's our marriage, right? That's our connection. There's so many deeper reasons for me wanting to commit to this. And when I have a hard week or a hard day, that's what I go to. And that gets me on the floor doing my exercises when I don't want to, because that happens too.
oh yeah, oh
Like
yeah, me
that's the
too.
thing. Like that happens too. And I think there have been 2 days out of the 8 weeks so far where I was like, I just
Pretty
didn't do it.
impressive.
And is that impressive? I
Oh
don't know.
yeah.
So you don't have to do this perfectly either.
No.
I missed a couple of days. The last week, I've had a crazy week. I've only done the exercises once a day instead of twice a day.
Which is also a high achieving thing. You also don't have to do it that often. But I mean, that's great if you want. Like that's their tools for your toolbox, right?
Yeah,
So
but the thing is, it doesn't matter. Like I almost said it again. I can half A it.
I don't care.
I can
What do
half
people
ass it. I'll
like?
just say it. I can half ass it, and I still get results from it.
Yeah.
So like, that's what I like too, is like you have like a longer version and a short version. So if in a pinch, if I needed to do the 10-minute version instead of the 20-minute version, I'm still doing something.
Yeah.
So so that's my final piece, I guess, along with knowing that deeper why, is like get over the perfection. You don't have to do this perfectly. You still make progress, and
Yeah.
you make it really quickly.
It's a lifestyle change. It's not about being perfect at exercises. It's you're changing your habits and you're creating habits. And like you said, you're craving it, like because you feel
Yeah,
the
I crave it now.
change.
It's
You feel the
crazy.
change. So you're not, if you skip a day, oh well. If you skip 3 days, you're gonna feel it
Oh
and your
yeah,
body's gonna tell you to do it.
yeah,
Right. So you just
exactly.
listen to that
Yeah,
and don't go into freak out mode of like, oh my God, I skipped a day. The world is ending. Like, no, just get right back on it because your body will tell you
yeah,
that you get back on it. So, I think a lot of us, especially when it comes to movement, I exercise can be such a stigmatic word,
yeah.
right? But when
I
it
don't like to
comes,
call these exercises. I call them
yeah,
therapy.
therapy, yeah.
Yeah.
But with exercise, often people think it's all or nothing. With
Hmm.
this, I mean, because it's technically exercise therapy, posture therapy. I mean, they're synonymous.
Yeah.
Um, it's it's not about you know doing it perfectly. It's
Yeah.
about doing it like brushing your teeth every day,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
keeping the health of your joints and your muscles, so then
Mhm.
all of that other movement you can continue to do. So you
Yeah.
can do the exercise if you want to do the exercise and make more gains or whatever that it
Right.
looks like for you. It goes back to the why,
Right.
right? Oftentimes people who come to me are really just trying to live their life,
Yeah.
without regretting it the next day, regretting
Yeah.
moving
That's
or going on a bike ride or going on a walk.
that's where I
Um,
was. Like,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I can't go stay in that hotel because it's at the top of a hill. So let's rearrange my entire vacation, right? So
Oh,
that I can
that's so
find
hard.
that, you know, those
Yeah.
kinds of things
You don't
too.
want to be thinking about that.
I mean,
That's too much brain power. Like
yeah,
your
all of
brain
that
doesn't need
stuff.
to be occupied with that.
Yeah.
But
So,
that's where a lot of people are, and before we start working together.
yeah,
So I completely
yeah,
understand that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know what else to say. I'm so grateful. Like I feel like I have my life back. And aside from having my life back, which is huge in itself, I have a connection to my body that I never thought I would have, because people would ask me, right, like, well, you know, where does it hurt or what are you feeling? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I got nothing, right? Like there was no, like I couldn't sense anything. Like
Yeah.
the head was cut off from the rest of me. That's part of me living in my head the way I do. This has helped me like get into my body
Mhm.
in a way that other things have not,
Yeah.
like without any hatred of my body or anger at it or frustration at it,
Beautiful.
but like actually the joy of it knowing what to do. If I just give it a little like nudge to be able to do it, it responds. And that's just been like, you know, the body is amazing. It's a beautiful thing. It's not my enemy.
Mhm.
And so that has shifted too, which
Yeah.
is just profound. It's
Yeah.
profound. Yeah.
Amazing. All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it there because what a
Okay.
beautiful note to leave it on. Thank you so much for
You're
joining me
welcome. Thank you for
today.
everything you've done for me. I'm just like,
Of course.
yeah, I'm thrilled. So
All
no
right.
regrets.
Woo! All right.
Yay! All right. Bye, Rachel.